Before we get started on this car, I just want to point something out. Look at how dirty this car is. Professional detailer. Around here, we do a lot of things to golfs. We just wrapped up the RS3 swapped Golf R. We've also had some Golfs that were less than awesome. The red GTI with the dead engine, the Fahrenheit, and a whole bunch more. But now we are going back to something awesome. We have the whole catalog of integrated engineering go fast parts all going on this 2018 Golf R. So we're gonna add a bunch of power, all while keeping this thing a daily driver. Here's a really quick rundown of everything we're about to install. Downpipe, full E85, full puberty, downpipe, full E85, upgraded intercooler, a new turbocharger, engine mounts, a clutch, and we're also going to tune it with our power link. There are also two other parts that we have that I'm still waiting on, but they'll be here before we're done. Typically, this build also does require an intake, but our man Dustin, a man of pretty great taste, already has the proper IE intake for this build. This is also the perfect time for me to tell you, I scored you guys a killer discount from Integrated Engineering. That information is in the description as well as in the pinned comment, so go get your discount and you can do this build too. He's also dirt nasty low, so this is gonna be a 700-point turn to get it on the lift. Maybe while it's here, we can convince this guy to put some air ride on his car, then we don't have to worry about it. Okay, so this is a pretty big job. We got a lot of things that we are going to be doing. I'm not totally sure exactly what our order of operation is or what just fell. So we're gonna start with the easy stuff first. Obviously, these kind of things all gotta come off for a bunch of the different jobs. And while I'm taking this off, I'll kind of noodle around what makes sense. Something we've already done before we got to this point is took this car to the dyno so we could get some pre-mod dyno numbers. While Ian gets the car loaded up on the dyno, Dustin, how much power do you think your car is gonna make?
Oh, if I had to guess, I'm going to say 320-ish.
I'm probably somewhere in that ballpark too. We have intake, unknown turbo inlet, unknown tune. Will the clutch hold up on the dyno?
On the dyno, yes. Maybe.
I kind of hope it doesn't. Either way, let's see what we make, because once we know what we make, we'll know what we get at the end, and then we can tell how many powers we actually get. God, so much power. 318 horsepower, yep. 346 torque, and a fresh organic material smell. Yep. Nice. So as you can see, our car's already modified, which is pretty awesome. Now with all these parts that we're gonna put on this car, we should get roughly 462 horsepower and about 456 pound-feet of torque. That is a wrong size battery, but that's okay. Now, this car, 6-speed manual. One of the disadvantages in this car to being a manual is we gotta put a clutch in it. So I'm just work to get access to our shifter stuff so we can get all that disconnected before we go up. If you have a DSG, you don't have to worry about a clutch. My yellow car actually had all these mods minus the E85 stuff and the turbo. So the other cool thing is, if you want a step-by-step, bolt by bolt, I've done those videos on a car that's a much cooler color. No boomer heart attacks here. We got the battery off the ground. Our old boy Dustin here has the DAP Holy Shift kit. He's shifting dirt nasty. This kit might actually be pre-Paul install. Thanks, Paul. Thanks for nothing. You really ruined my special day. So this car did have an inlet on it of unknown origin. Yeah, that's what it had. Cool story, Charles. Okay, so we got all our connectors done. I'm just gonna peel this whole harness back over this way. And really what I'm doing is just kind of getting the easy stuff up top. We're gonna go down below and kind of reevaluate. So normally what you do is you would take the turbo off from the top. But since we're pulling the trans anyway, I'm kind of thinking it might be easier just to drop it down out of the bottom. We're gonna have to get all this stuff out of the way to get the trans mount out. So we'll just leave that kind of chilling right there. And this is the point where we find, dun dun dun, this car has a coolant leak. I was just talking to Pauly D earlier and I made a joke about Mark 7s being the new Mark 5s. Mods before maintenance, baby. Ah. I need that. Give that back. There we go. This is one of those cars that you gotta be real nice to, I guess. But we're gonna get it. We're not gonna let the car win. May win the battle, but we're gonna win the war. Then we're gonna put a bunch of horsepower in it and then blow it up. No, I'm just kidding, we're not gonna blow it up. Not even rusty or anything like that either. It's just one of those days where the car's like, I'm your captain now. You know what it's almost time for? It's almost time to break out the cardboard, do some transmission bell housing bolt cardboard action. I don't see a world in my life where I ever don't use the cardboard trick. What's the cardboard trick, Charles? Stop talking about it, start showing about it. I'll show you in a minute. This one's pretty easy. It's a starter bolt. So we're gonna keep this guy with the starter, but what I am gonna do, we're gonna spin that retainer nut back on it. I am gonna punch you in the face, you idiot. Yeah, say something now, stupid Siri.
To who?
Apple Intelligence is getting dumber. Hey Siri, text Dustin.
Which app do you want to use?
Messages, that's what a text is.
What do you want to say?
Do you know where the little wrench to take off your wheel caps is at?
Okay, sending.
So, you see we got these sweet roadie forms on this car. There's a tool that you put over the center thing to help loosen it. And I text Dustin, as you saw me screaming at my phone, if he knew where the tool was, he's like, no, I just use my man hands. I was like, oh, dang. Dustin's, he's a big boy, so. Oh, there we go. Oh, I got it. Just got to crack her loose. Cool part is we got a new dog bone. Now, I mentioned we're doing engine mount, trans mount, right? The only thing I did that was any kind of performance upgrade in that department is this one right here. We don't want to put like stage 97 engine mounts in it and have it be a complete rattle box, but adding an upgraded dog bone is actually a really great mod. Mod is the word I was looking for. Oh, look at our boy Dustin even has the hub centering ring. The diameter of the wheel is bigger than the factory size. This looks like it's probably 66.6 from an Audi, so that takes up the space so your wheel is centered on your hub. You know what, it's really too bad this lift doesn't go any higher than this. And I feel like we're entering weird hour. For context, it is 2:41 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I don't know. I'm just like right here. So this is a duct that only the manuals have. The DSG doesn't have this duct because there's actually a little tiny radiator that lives basically right here. I almost always, on almost every car, at least Mark IV and newer, take the subframe out when I'm doing a clutch. A lot of people don't do that. It's a handful of bolts and it gives you all the room in the world. You can fight it around. I just don't think it's worth it. Super easy, barely an inconvenience. And since this is technically a client's car, I did get new hardware for all this stuff. I forgot to warn you about that one. They hold the juice. It's a little big old slurp of whiskey will handle that. All right. Yeah. Oh, we're powered that by Bootlegger's Grape. I found some Bootlegger's Grape in the car, so he said, "Oh, that's some girl I took out." No shot. No shot. This is just gonna hold the rack. Super easy to access our transmission bolts. Now, all we're gonna do is we're gonna go over a little bit and straight down. Okay, the cardboard trick. Our beautiful cardboard. I like to write the word top on the top. I draw my circle. We take our bolt out of our bell housing and right where it was in the transmission, we punch it through like that. If we held this up to the back of the engine, this is where all the transmission bolts go. I know, Grease Monkey 69, you can do this without having to remember where anything goes. You just throw them on the floor and it's okay. Don't risk it, it's not worth it. I don't know if I've told you this. I've never installed one of these turbos before, so I'm pretty hyped to do this job. It's fun doing this kind of stuff for the first time. What did I say earlier? That this was a car that needed sweet talk, or was it like a tough love situation? I think this was a sweet talker. All right, old girl, we're in this together. We both want the same thing. Now it's up to us to really get it done. I'm gonna go ahead and take the downpipe out now. This job on the lift with the subframe out could not be easier. But doing this job on jack stands, it kind of sucks. You gotta really hold your mouth right to get all these pieces out. Godspeed. Ow! Oh man, this little thing is coming apart and it poked me. There we go. There we go. Okay, so here's the takeaway. If you want to have an easier time doing the downpipe, do a turbo, do a clutch, do all of it, and then downpipe, super easy. Okay, so we got the coolant lines both off, and then this final line is the oil return line. Now, we're gonna see if the spatial relationship game is something I'm good at, or if I get myself in a bad situation. I think we're gonna be good. I just gotta keep rotating it. Definitely, probably easier from the top side. Oh, drippy.
How's it going?
Well, I should have just taken it from the top side, but now I'm just being a stubborn butt. Whether it's the right way or not doesn't matter anymore. I think I got it caught. And now I think I got it stuck. Oh wait, is that gonna work? Is that gonna do it? It's not worth it. It's not worth it. Okay, yes. That is what you call being obnoxiously stubborn about something. I'm gonna set this down and we're gonna compare turb skis. As they say, old and busted, new hotness. So this is our IHI turbo. This is an IS38. This is not a huge turbo, right? It's really similar to the turbo that we took off of it. That is for a reason. This turbo should give us really good OEM-like drivability, just give us a better horsepower range. Good drivability is really important for this owner, so that's why we went with this one. Looks like we got a couple of things to transfer over, but nothing crazy. Ah, there we go. All right. So I'm gonna test fit these just to make sure I'm 100% right. We'll go ahead and put the O-rings on it, then get them installed on the turbo so we can get the turbo mounted back up in the car. One of the things you gotta make sure you swap over is this new oil return pipe on the new turbo. You can see on the old one, the way the pipe comes up and over the wastegate. Well, the wastegate's higher up on the new turbo, so we have a little bit longer pipe to come up and around, and we gotta clamp it back on. We got two gaskets we gotta talk about. This one, the easy one. This one goes from the manifold to the cylinder head. This other one is like a compressed foil type thing, and it sits right in here. And with that, we can put our turbo in, struggling a little less going in with the new one than we did coming out. Then I think it's time to get started on pulling the transmission. All right, we got our engine hoisting our engine and transmission. Take these three out, make sure they're all the same length. They are. This just gives us a little bit more room to sneak the transmission past the frame of the car. Put it right back where it came from, then you don't have to worries. Okay, first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the axles loose from the transmission. We're not gonna take the axles out, which you totally could do if you wanted to, but I'm just gonna take it, I'm gonna rotate the whole assembly and zip tie it up and out of the way so it can just stay in the car. I decided I am definitely gonna try and leave the bevel box in. If I do that, I don't have to take the prop shaft out, and I don't have to mess with these bracket bolts up on the engine. Look at this bolt. You can see right here how it's thick and then next down to where the threads are. This is a special bolt. You don't have to replace it with these, but you really kind of have to. If you don't, it may not hold the bevel box down all the way, and you'll end up having a real sad bevel box day. There's also the hidden bolt. Inside the axle flange on the passenger side, the bolt is like right here. So what is that, 12 inches give or take? We gotta get that bolt out. Now this one is a bell housing bolt and it faces that way, towards the transmission. So watch what I'm gonna do. Simple, yet effective. And I tilted the transmission down a little bit so that we can separate it easier from the engine. If you don't do that, it's okay, you're just gonna struggle a little bit more most likely. And as you know, I hate struggling, except in everything that I do, because I've done everything I've done the hardest way possible. You should be able to come on down. That ain't not bad. So look at this. Looks like something whacked it. Maybe that's normal. Maybe you got something in there tumbling around. I don't see anything in here. Doesn't really matter, we're replacing all this anyway, but just strange. Now the reason I'm replacing the clutch is the 7 and 7.5 Golf Rs were notorious about burning up clutches, even when you're adding just a little bit of power. The owner of this car said that on the highway, it would actually slip just on whatever stage 1 file that he has. With the power that we're gonna add, a clutch is a mandatory upgrade. I am expecting to see some pretty good hot spotting on the pressure plate and on the flywheel. Ooh, oh, yeah, look at that. Look at all these dark blue spots. That's all from the clutch slipping. Yep, that's a sad boy clutch right there. And this is adult driven, alleged adult driven. So yeah, no question, clutch was the right move. Also, it took me everything I have, every ounce of my being, not to do all these parts and blow the clutch up and then do the clutch. But, you know, I don't know. Maybe if you need a new clutch, this is not the one. This is a dual mass flywheel. For the most part, all your factory VW Audi flywheels are gonna be dual mass. So see how I'm moving this sort of independent from this outer ring? What that means is when you let off the clutch pedal, there's a little bit of movement to absorb some shock, and it makes for a little bit less feedback into the car. For a lot of people, a little bit more pleasant driving experience. The clutch we're gonna put on next, it don't do that. It's a single mass flywheel, just generally lighter and more performance-oriented is the words. By the way, let's talk about the parts of the clutch real quick. This is a pressure plate. This is the outermost part. Right here is where your release bearing will ride. This is our friction disc. This one's nice and labeled, much appreciated. And then this part right here is our flywheel. So I think my next step, get some brake cleaner, clean everything, and we can get our flywheel, clutch, and pressure plate back on. Whenever I have a plus 90 degrees or a plus 180 degrees, I'll generally put a mark all at the same time. So this is all right about 12 o'clock, 90, 90, 90. And then I can easily look at them and go, oh, yep, I got them all. This is the friction disc next. This is generally the piece that gets upgraded when you get an upgraded clutch. The actual friction material is generally the upgrade. Think about how you would tighten a wheel down, right? We're gonna crisscross around. That's how you wanna do it. That's it, we got a new clutch. So when I spin this, watch what happens. See how it just keeps spinning and spinning? This is actually a release bearing that's going bad. Watch what happens when I do it on the new one. See how it doesn't spin? Why is that? Well, on our one in the car, a lot of the grease has come out of this. Our grease is actually preventing this from spinning really fast. So we're gonna definitely replace this. Be stupid not to, really. I've seen sometimes where these aftermarket bleeder blocks don't actually work on non-factory release bearings. It's kind of weird. Watch how easy this one goes on. This is the factory one with the clip on it. Watch this. Boom. Easy, right? Even with a bunch of lube, this one, like I gotta shove it on there. If you're a millimeter bigger around, no chance, no shot it's gonna fit. Okay, so earlier in the video, I said I was gonna leave the bevel box attached to the engine. As you can see, I have it here in my hand, so clearly that didn't work out. And here's what happened. With the bevel box attached to the engine, not only do you have to align the input shaft to the clutch, you have to align these splines and the splines in here, all while not being able to actually rotate the transmission or the bevel box back and forth. I think it's a great idea. And you know what? There's probably times where it just plops all right back in, but this time that wasn't the case. Also, on the Golf R, you can't rotate the engine because the washer fluid bottle is in the way, so I'm a pretty lazy tech. If I can take a couple more bolts out and not have to fight anything, that's what I generally do. That's why I take the subframe out when I do a clutch and why I have gear oil on the floor. I'm gonna come down. Before I can do the mount, I gotta get the ECM out of the way. You'll notice this car's ECM has this enormous, gigantic box covering it up. This is a security cage with shear bolts holding it in because ECM thievery is rampant. It's probably not, I really don't know. Not all of them have this. My 2019 didn't have any of this crap. So I'm gonna grab my grip edge extractors, get that thing out of the way. These had Loctite on them, so they were extra spicy. All right, we got our trans mount out. Now, Charles, why are you replacing this trans mount? When we compare our two transmission mounts, I'm looking here at the top. You can see this rubber piece is down below the metal on the old one. If you get this far and you're like, Charles, bro, I don't want to put new mounts in, totally get it. But we're right there. Something else to consider. We're adding a bunch of power to this car. We don't want squashy, floppity mounts. We want stiff and firm mounts. So what I did was I pulled the metal bracket that the ECM was in, the one with the security thing. We're ditching it. Dunzo. I'm putting this one in, which was from the RS3. In my opinion, that was stupid and it looks ugly and it serves no purpose. Just like we did with the transmission mount, let's replace the engine mount. This one is 6 bolts. We'll get the coolant bottle out of the way, we'll get the washer fluid bottle out of the way, and we can take our mount out. All right, similar to our transmission mount, we have our worn engine mount. You can see the stress cracking of the rubber right there on the old one. Now, this is a little bit different style of a actual like rubber mount inside, so it's kind of hard to compare them directly. But as you can see, our little fluid sac has reached the end of its life, which means it's time for a juicing. Oh, it's so juicing. Oh God. I owe Ray a new pair of shoes now. And in proper repair manual procedure, installation is reverse of removal. Do make sure though that you have your mount lined up properly. If you end up with the mount sideways, your whole powertrain isn't gonna sit correctly in the car. So we got a whole bunch of stuff done over on the car. The next thing we need to do is get our upgraded downpipe in, but before we put that in, we gotta swap our oxygen sensor. Here is our downpipe, right? Little freshy IE logo on it. This is a requirement for software stage 2 and up. High flow, still has a catalytic converter. This is the same downpipe I had in my yellow car. This is gonna be so easy because we have the subframe out. Watch this. All right, so we've done a ton of stuff on this car already, and we have a ton more to go. But I have to pause here because we're about to fly to New York to deal with legit the most disgusting Fahrenheit you will have ever seen in your whole life. For real, if you haven't seen the video yet, you need to go watch it. So we're gonna stop here. We'll come back next time, finish all the rest, and do what everybody wants to see, dyno it, and then see how it drives.